Hey everyone, I've decided to do a video on smithing a Pilum out of rebar. I've already started it, but I will go back and show you how to get up to this stage. This is a style of Roman javelin, and you may have seen some of my other Pilum tested on the Thane Thran's channel, but those were made out of mild steel, using a lot of stock removal for the shaft. But for this one, what I'm planning on using is a piece of thick rebar. But I'll crank up the forge and I'll take you through the process. Hope you all enjoy.
Okay, so the first thing I need to do is to create my tip. The rebar I'm using is about 15 to 16 mil. It can be a little tricky to tell with all those ridges, but at its narrowest it seems to be a bit over 15 mil of rebar. So what I need to do is I need to take the tip, when it's nice and orange, right up to the edge. And what I'm going to be doing is hammering down at an angle and rotating it so I hit 4 sides to make it square. I normally would have the anvil running in this direction, but for the purposes of filming I'm running it this way. It's a little bit trickier because then I need to angle my hammer like this. Now the reason why I'm having it right at the edge is because if I was doing it here and my hammer was a little bit too far forwards, I would strike the surface and mar my anvil. This way there's a chance that I could damage the very edge, but it will save my surface, and it's a little bit more likely to end up damaging my hammers, and hammers can be resurfaced, anvils can be resurfaced, but it's normal practice for, even though this is not a particularly expensive anvil, this is only a cast steel one. It deforms quite easily. I've had to resurface it several times, but it's good practice to work on the edge, so that if there's an overhang you're less likely to strike the anvil, and of course you'll be hitting your work. Now I'm going to get my piece nice and hot. And we've lost heat. But I think you get the general idea. And the reason why you want to hit all 4 sides instead of just alternating between 2 is to try and keep the tip in the center, but also, well, yeah, mainly just to try and keep the tip centered as opposed to off on an angle. But I'll get some more of that done and I will show you the next step. Though it can help to polish up the very tip and get it a bit rounded so you don't have as many little odd bits sticking out at the end, and to help prevent cold shuts. So now I'm ready to do a set down to create the neck after the head. So to make it thinner there, so it thins down for the shaft. Now, a note about historical accuracy. I have found it very difficult to find accurate or reliable information on the exact dimensions of a historical pilum. I would very much like to hear from anyone out there who is more knowledgeable than I am, or could give me dimensions of a historical pilum, an actual pilum, say the dimensions taken from an original, so that I can recreate that pilum to make it more historically accurate. But the advice I've gotten has been for something around that length. I made Thran's and Elgrim's pilum with historical proportions in mind based on the information that I had at the time. I'm going for about a 5 centimeter, 6 centimeter head on these ones, but now I'm going to reduce it down. The way we do that is we place it, the section we want thinned on the anvil and the section we don't want thinned off the anvil. And the idea is our hammer blows come in so that they're in line with the edge of the anvil, so that it acts like a guillotine. So the stuff that's hanging off the edge doesn't get squished, stuff on the anvil does, and we will rotate this to all 4 sides so that the neck of the pilum shaft comes out in the center of the head, not up to the side, like we would get if we alternated between. And we will want to have this nice and flat on the working surface as we hammer it. Though of course using the edge is for a sharp transition for a set down. If we wanted it more rounded, we could use a more rounded hammer on the horn of the anvil or another surface and squeeze the material out so it's more gradual of a taper. If you're not quite confident enough to do a sharp transition and step down, you could of course do it with a smooth transition and clean up with filing, or use a blacksmith's guillotine. Gonna aim for a slightly sharper transition. Gonna do it with a set down. Though my set downs are not the best. You really want to keep it nice and bright and orange when you're trying to move it, otherwise it just moves too slow. As you can see, it is already starting to thin out a bit. Now, of course, if you wanted a cylindrical shaft, and I have seen some reproductions and possibly originals with cylindrical shafts, you would hammer it into an octagon, and then hammer those corners and make it into a round shaft. Of course, you could make it square and then make it an octagon, and work it down once you get closer to the end thickness you want. But for this build I'm going for a square shaft. And here is one I prepared earlier. You can see this one's had a smooth transition, not a sharp set down. It was done more on a horn so that it would be nice and smooth. There is a slight twisting in it so far, but that can easily be fixed by heating it up and putting in a vise or holding it with a pair of pliers and then twisting it to straighten it out. But I've stretched it out, and now I'm going to continue stretching out the shaft of the pilum. One day I'll finally get around to properly bolting back in. Okay, so I've taken a grinder and I've tidied up the neck of the pilum, and I've profiled it a bit more, making it pointier. So I've also cut off the end of the rebar. I've left about 4 inches. There's a gradual taper, it gets thicker towards the base. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flatten out these final 4 inches. Yeah, that seems about right. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat that section up till it is glowing. You know the drill. Heat it up till it's at its critical temperature. And then a little bit extra because I gotta go run it to the oil. Dunk it in some oil. Then we'll come back and we'll temper it. Now I'll cool it off, polish it up, and then I'll run the colours to a dark straw. Right, now I've got the head polished up, just got to put it in the coals and wait for it to turn kind of straw coloured. I'll just keep it rotating. And when this is done, I think that will be the end of this video. And we can save putting a haft on it for the next part. Make that a separate video. Alright, and there we go. One hand forged and heat treated Pilum head made from rebar. A little bit, you know, not entirely perfect. I kind of like that. You know, it doesn't look machined. It looks like something that may have been mass produced. It's kind of rough. I kind of like the way that looks. Especially for this time. I don't know how polished and well finished Pilums were in general back in the Roman Empire, but I quite like the way this one looks. So that's it for this video. After I got it up to a dark straw colour, I put in the oil and that's re-blackened it, so it's all nice and black and looks forged. So that's the head, and the next video will be making the body of the Pilum. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and leave a comment, and hopefully I'll get back to you soon. Alright everyone, see you.